Hey guys, this is Troy from Cape Ann Conversations, and today I have a special guest, Michael Reardon from Happy Valley. Michael, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been one of my dreams to get you on this podcast because I think it's just a ridiculously awesome local company that a lot of people have heard of, but maybe don't know the whole story. And today we want to hear more about that. So if you could please introduce yourself, tell us about how you got started in this because I think everybody wants to know.
Well, believe it or not, the vision of Happy Valley was birthed over dinner in the Bahamas in 2015. So my co-founding partner, Eddie Loth, and I met after he retained me to become his owner's rep for a resort project on the island of Eleuthera in the Bahamas. And I had previously done a project with a different partnership on that same island. And during the time of Eddie and I working together from 2012 to 2015, we had built this resort and got it up and running. And I was in a contract at that time to operate it and to continue on with other phases. And I also had 2 kids in diapers at the time. And I had been down there at that point in 2015 for a decade. I'd been down there for 10 years. I was basically gone 200 and some days a year, 250 days a year. And we're having dinner, and he said, I want to do something again after we get out of after this project, And I said, well, great. What are you thinking? And he's like, I was involved in spring water, and I built a nice company there, and I've been eyeing another industry, that's emerging. I said, well, great. What is that? He's like, marijuana. And I started laughing. I laughed just like he did right there. I was like, I just burst out laughing. I've been in the Bahamas for a decade. I didn't have a TV. I rarely had internet. I missed all of social media. I'm to this day, I have no presence on social media because I was in the Bahamas. Facebook, it wasn't a part of my life. I only vaguely knew that cannabis had been legalized and existed in Colorado. And so I just said, great, what an opportunity. I have no skill set at all for this. And he goes, oh, no, you're the right guy for this. I was like, I don't think so. It's like, in home base for me was Charleston, South Carolina. I'm in the Bible Belt,
Yeah. Maybe he thought you were just crazy enough to do it because you lived 200 days a year away. Like, this guy's crazy enough to do it.
He thought I had a unique skill set and could have a lot of moving parts and that I would be good at doing it and putting the deal together. And anyways, I did not think so. But within a few months of that, I got a random phone call that I answered with a number from Boulder, Colorado. And I never answer my phone when I don't recognize the number, but I happened to this time. And it turned out to be a friend of mine by the name of Matt McCabe, who I'd lost contact with. He had moved out of the country with his family and had hadn't heard from him. I get this call, and he's just saying hello and touching base with me, and one thing led to another, and I just started asking him, well, what are you doing in Colorado? And he's like, I got a few things going on, and I kind of ended up smack dab in the middle of the cannabis industry as a podcaster, and I said, you're doing a podcast in the cannabis industry? He's like, yeah. I'm the Canna Insider, and I changed my last name to Matthew Kind. I'm not Matthew McCabe, and it was just kind of, bizarre that in a span of a few months, a mentor and dear friend and someone I've been working closely with in the Bahamas for a few years has an interest in marijuana. A good friend of mine who I haven't lost contact with ends up calling me out of the blue. I answered, and he's in Colorado doing podcasts just like this. And then I had a stretch in the Bahamas on Eleuthera where everything that had gone wrong in 10 years went wrong in 6 weeks. Just all of the challenges that come with operating in basically a third world country and managing Bahamians and Haitians. I was like, you know what? I got to get off this island.
Yeah.
And I got back to Charleston, and basically dropped my bags off, said hello to my wife and kids, and then said, hey babe, I'm gonna go out to Colorado and hang out with Matt McCabe for a few days. She's like, what are you doing that for? It's like, he's got some business interests, and I need to look at something else post this Bahamas resort development I've been doing. And so I did. I flew out to Colorado, and Matt had interviewed a lot of the top producers out there, from cultivators to product manufacturers to vertically integrated companies, running stores and doing everything, along with also consultants that were advising, companies that were looking to pursue licensing outside of Colorado, in states that were then licensing and were producing applications for licensing for medical marijuana. And
this is like circa 2016.
This is 2015.
2015.
This is the summer of 2015 that I flew out there, and so I started, in essence, beginning the vetting process and due diligence, just like I would treat a development project in real estate. What are the costs up front? How can you create a financial pro forma that shows success? I mean, how do you actually build something that you could then go to investors and try and raise money for and bring online? And what does that opportunity look like? And so that's what began in 2015. And then in the process of that, Pennsylvania, where my partner is from, was pushing through medical marijuana legislation. And so we ended up, over a span of about 6 months, I ended up going back to Eddie and I said, hey, listen, I think this thing's viable. I think there's something here, especially if federal law changes, downstream, but there's definitely an opportunity here. And so we ended up putting together a partnership and raising money, some seed money from the original 5 members, which I was one of them. And started with just Eddie and I, and then we ended up being 5, and everything was about Pennsylvania. We were really, keying in on Pennsylvania, and then the legislation stalled out. And one of the consultants that we'd hired was based here in Boston, in Massachusetts, and they made us aware that Massachusetts had lifted its residency requirement to pursue medical marijuana licensing here. So I believe the medical program began in Massachusetts in 2012. Kind of stalled out, had some issues in terms of how they scored everything. And anyways, Baker decided that he was going to kind of reboot the medical marijuana program here, and he opened it up to so you didn't have to be a resident in order to apply. And having grown up in Ohio, I had no desire to go to Pennsylvania, but I, believe it or not, my career out of college began here in the North Shore of Massachusetts. My first job was in Danvers out of college, and I lived in Folly Hill Apartments in Beverly, and I really liked it. I still had friends here. I've been coming, I got here in 1999. I still had been coming almost annually back here, and so, I mean, New England was attractive to me. Massachusetts was attractive to me, and so I really pushed the partnership. Let's forget PA. Let's go to Mass. And by the way, I have a wife who's from Juneau, Alaska. And when before I married her, she said, "You are never taking me away from the ocean or mountains. I prefer both." So Pennsylvania never had a chance.
I mean, my wife moved back to Michigan. We literally came back 11 months later because she was like, "Yeah, we're from New England."
Yeah. Anyway, so like I said, home base was Charleston. Fast forward, we made the leap. We went out and raised $60 million, here, and we raised 20 originally, and then adult use passed, November 2016. Bam! Overnight, we went out and raised another 40 million, put 60 million together, and we of that 60 million, we put 50 million into hard assets here in Massachusetts. We have the location here in Gloucester, which is where we're headquartered out of and where every product is made. We have a cultivation facility, 20,000 square feet of canopy. We make all our products in Gloucester, and then we have a store as well. We run distribution out of here. We have additional warehouse space, multiple trucks running out of here. We also bought a location in East Boston, which is right on McClellan Highway on the way into Logan. Developed that. That acts as a store and also a distribution hub for us. So we take product from Gloucester to East Boston almost daily. And then from East Boston, we distribute to the city and the western part of the state and to the Cape. We handle delivery to the central Mass and from the northern part of the state from out of Gloucester. We deliver to about 55 different doors across the state each month. That's down. We just deliver to more, but the market's been getting difficult for all the retail. Not everybody's been paying.
When you talk about delivery to other doors, you're talking about other storefronts.
Correct.
You guys are totally, like you call it vertically integrated. You grow the plant here in Gloucester, and you sell it in your own stores, but you sell it to other stores who have their own licenses to sell directly to consumers.
So Massachusetts has licensing. You can be fully vertically integrated like we are. So what does it mean to be vertically integrated? That means that we're growing product and doing product manufacturing and distribution, and then have stores as well. And so we are vertically integrated, but there's also just licenses for retailers only. And there's licenses for cultivators only, and there's licenses for product manufacturers only. So we're able, when I say other doors, we're looking at other retailers. Some of those retailers are vertically integrated like us as well. They have stores, and some of them are just retailers. And so our footprint is, we have a presence throughout the entire Commonwealth.
The product can't cross state lines still. So how many growers are there in Massachusetts?
I don't know how many are actually licensed right now. I think it's a couple hundred or more.
Really?
Yeah. And what we have going on in the market right now is we're suffering from oversupply. The CCC has. I recently saw a study. Working with an investment banker recently, and he had commissioned a study, and the byproduct of that study was that the CCC had licensed 4 million more pounds of than necessary for the market. That doesn't mean all those pounds are currently being grown, but that's what the canopy, meaning how much square footage could be produced if everyone who's licensed for cultivation grew everything that they were licensed for. And so we have so although there's not 4 million more pounds being grown than necessary, there is thousands of pounds being grown more than what is necessary here in the state. And we're starting to see the ripple effect of that right now. We've been in a bottom here in New England, in Massachusetts for our pricing on flower, and it's continuing to go down. It's been going down for better part of 18 months, and I think we're still digging the bottom. And the reason is that we just have, we have people trying to survive and get whatever they can, and they're selling product for less than it costs them to grow it. And we're going to see, for the consumer, they're winning in terms of price, absolutely. And until we have some relief take place on a federal level with rescheduling of cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, we're going to get overtaxed on a federal level. Right now, the IRS applies a tax code called 280E to us. That tax code was created in the 80s for drug dealers that were writing off their expenses. And so they created a law that says, hey, if you're selling a Schedule 1 narcotic, you're not allowed to deduct anything attached to the sale of that narcotic. And so obviously, unfortunately, cannabis is still a Schedule 1 drug. And so all of our marketing expenses, all of our payroll, everything attached to selling cannabis is not allowed to be deducted. Only the expenses that are attached to growing it are allowed to be deducted. So, depending on how our profit margins are from one year to the next, our effective tax rate could be 100% on a federal level. It has been the best year we ever had on a federal tax rate level was like 65%, and we've reached we've gone over 100% as our margins have shrunk. So it's a very difficult climate as a regulated operator in our country right now. The overwhelming majority of our industry is struggling because of that overtaxation. Even from not only just in Massachusetts, all the markets. The time to make money in the industry is when a new state opens up and you have that first mover advantage. Outside of that, you end up going through the life cycle of having pricing compression, which is normal, supply and demand. And so we're in that phase right now here in Massachusetts, and I think it's going to maintain this way for a few more years as a result of just how many licenses are currently operating here in the state. And then on top of it, there's a lot of wealth in New England that has backed these companies, and human nature doesn't want you give up. And obviously we're all aware that there is hopefully relief coming next year, and we will no longer have 280E apply to us. The DEA, Health and Human Services has made a recommendation that cannabis should be rescheduled to Schedule 3. And so there's a process going on that hopefully will be, culminated next March, April, or May, and the DEA, then reschedules us to Schedule 3, and they take the advice of Health and Human Services, and then all of a sudden 280 can't be applied to us anymore, and that'll be a huge relief. And I know there's probably dozens and dozens of operators that are just trying to get to that point in time and then figure out if they got something that will survive. And I think that's what we're seeing here in not only our market but other markets, where well, why are they still operating if they've never had a profitable month, right? Well, a lot of the reasons why they haven't a profitable month is they've been overtaxed.
As a former banker, we used to talk about the industry also having problems with the banking. Have you guys solved for that? Because I heard that at one point it was like Century Bank, and then another bank like Needham Bank had stood up to help bank locally because they were Massachusetts-only companies. Has that been solved?
We do have a number of banks servicing us here in Massachusetts. We currently bank with Bay Coast Bank, and I think there's 4 or 5, maybe 6 at this point. So we're fortunate. We do have access to banking, but what we don't have access to is traditional banking.
Right.
We don't have all of the products that are available to somebody who would be in a different industry. We don't have commercial loan structures. We don't have typical line of credit. They don't give us interest rates, on our deposits. It's almost like legalized money laundering in some respects. Just because they have tremendous overhead to bank us. The auditors and regulators that they have to deal with create tremendous expenses for them. So it's we're just grateful for our relationship with Bay Coast. They've been a tremendous partner of ours. And they're not transactional bankers. It's a relationship that we have with them, and we're grateful for that. And I think everyone in our industry who has a good bank here working with them in Mass feels the same. I don't mind the fact that I don't have all these other traditional products. The fact that we just have an ability to operate our business, do payroll, do all those other things. So, and that obviously, 280E going away, as it relates to our taxation stuff. There's also safe banking that has never gotten through Congress, and that would allow these banks to bank us regularly and not have all that overhead that's coming from their regulators and auditors. And I don't see any traction on that taking place right now on a federal level. So the only relief we see coming is going to be with the rescheduling of cannabis, and that's a huge, huge, huge win for us. And I think it's second half of next year. Hopefully that'll take place.
How did you end up in Gloucester as the facility, like location? So it's kind of a random place. I know that you were on the North Shore, but
my closest friends that I have made in Mass from when I got here in '99 were all from Gloucester. So when I called them up and said, "Hey, I'm coming back to Mass. We're going to do a medical marijuana company," they laughed. But then, I plugged into my network, and my network, led me to Gloucester. And Gloucester, Jim Destino was involved in administration at that time, under Mayor Safathia, and he was listening to whether or not there was an opportunity to bring a medical marijuana company into Gloucester. And so, with the help of Joel Favazza is attorney here in town, and there was basically a crafting of zoning that was taking place, and it ended up getting passed here, and there was a pathway to success. And Blackburn Industrial Park had a parcel that was available that met the zoning requirements, and like I said, it was I first stepped foot on this island in 1999, and there wasn't. When I was coming back in 2015, 16, there wasn't a lot of communities that were open to having medical marijuana.
Right.
I was grateful for the opportunity that Gloucester was, willing to listen and have a business open like us here, and so it wasn't like there was an entire Commonwealth to choose from, and obviously with my network being in this part of the state from when I first was here, it just made logical sense to plug into that. And that's how we ended up here. And it's, I'm grateful that we had that opportunity to open up here in Blackburn. And now the city has opened up a lot more areas, for stores to operate than originally. And now there's 2 other stores here on the island. And, but yeah, so that's how we ended up here. It was, they pioneer in some respects, in terms of, allowing cannabis into the community.
Yeah, it takes a lot of foresight at the timing of you guys going through this to see how this industry was going to develop, and a little bit of risk taking on some of those people's parts. I mean, they're putting their own political sort of careers into those things, and as you said, not everybody was on board in a lot of these, and they still aren't. You have a 3rd license for a store that you guys have gone to try to place a few times, right? And have not necessarily been successful.
That wasn't the city of Boston's fault, but unfortunately, there is the ability for abutters to appeal a zoning decision anywhere here in the Commonwealth, and unfortunately, in Brighton, a location that we had gotten approved through the city and zoned in ZBA, we had our neighbors that didn't want us. And they filed appeals, and that litigation is dragged on, and we ended up having to abandon that location just after 3 years of litigation. Just didn't make sense anymore. But it's a difficult state to do business in. There is the NIMBY attitude, not in my backyard, that is prevalent all over the state. There are still communities that don't have cannabis at all, but the overwhelming majority, it's kind of open for business. But it's definitely a difficult state to do business in.
So let's talk about some of the good stuff here. So you've got 160 people working at Happy Valley now, right?
That's correct.
That's incredible. I mean, that's one of the bigger businesses here in Gloucester area.
Yeah, so we probably, out of the Gloucester location, we're probably 125, that through different shifts over the course of the week work out of that building. And the overwhelming majority of our staff is either from Cape Ann area originally or has certainly relocated to this area.
Tell us about all the products you guys have now, because it's not just, smoking, flowering bud, marijuana anymore. It is a very different industry with many different products, and you guys, being vertically integrated, are literally creating all of them in-house.
That's correct. Every product we make and sell here in Massachusetts is made right here in Gloucester. So not only do we have, the pre-rolls and the flower, smoking grade flower products, we have so many different infused products, multiple lines of edibles. We have tincture products. We have fully medicinal products like Rick Simpson oil, RSO. We make, I think there's over 100 different formulations that we have created since inception that we put into the marketplace. All of it flying under one brand, Happy Valley. The red key is recognized all over the state at this point. We from a marketing standpoint and branding standpoint, we wanted to tie our brand to experiences, and an experience that a lot of us cannabis consumers really enjoy is music, and so we have been the exclusive cannabis sponsor the previous 2 years at Boston Calling. It was a great way to have all that tourism come in for that show. And that weekend, over Memorial Day, and get our brand exposure there. Done the same with the Levitate Music Festival that takes place in the Cape every summer in July. Same exact thing. A lot of people come in for that music. We associate our brand with it. And then on top of that, we made a deal with Big Night Entertainment Group there based out of Boston. Big Night is the largest nightclub operator here in New England. And lounges and nightclubs, you might be familiar with Big Night Live next to TD Garden. You'll see us on their marquee all the time. Happy Valley is sponsoring one of the DJ sets or music acts playing there. And so that's been a great relationship. And all of this is just getting the brand out in front of, our what we consider to be our audience, people listening to music. And obviously it, on a selfish level, those of us at Happy Valley are a lot of us in the leadership team, huge fans of music. So it's been, it's a great way to bond. And we've done a really good job at creating a cultural brand in some respects in terms of just, it's just, we're associated with things that people like to do. Yeah.
Let's assume somebody is not an active participant in the industry. How do they come? What would you recommend somebody from an experience standpoint to come try out Happy Valley?
Well, first of all, what are you looking to experience, right? That's the thing that I would say as I returned to cannabis. Cannabis wasn't a part of my life. In the Bahamas, you're on a work permit in another country. You're not trying to get arrested for drugs. So when I got involved, in this legal side of the industry, it was a return to cannabis for me. It hadn't been part of my life, and I look at it today. All the different products we make. It's not like alcohol. You drink Mad Dog 2020 or the finest red wine from Napa Valley or France or Italy, you're going to end up in the same spot. In various levels of intoxication and drunkenness, depending on how much you consume. You're going to end up, it's one lane. It acts on one part of your brain, and that's just how it plays out with alcohol. That's not cannabis. We have, I've learned, that we have this endocannabinoid system and all these receptors throughout our body, and that the cannabinoids from the cannabis, as we consume it, fills these receptors in different parts of your body, and that's what leads to a multitude of experiences. And so from, I can smoke, super lemon haze on one day and, another level on another day. It's completely different experiences. If I had a tough day at Happy Valley, I know I can check out with Motor Breath 15, and if I'm looking to have a tremendous hike, up in the White Mountains, I'm going to take a couple stir sticks of our energy stir sticks and push through, 3,000 or 4,000 feet of elevation, and I'm not altered or inebriated or intoxicated when I'm doing that. So there's just so many different experiences that we can have from, I look at cannabis as, in my particular life right now, it's almost like a supplement. My physical condition's fine. I use it from, depending on, knowing what I know about our products, I know what the outcome's going to be on experience. I mean, that's why the tagline of Happy Valley has always been unlock your experience. That was a direct result of so many of us in the company knowing that there's so many different experiences out there. And obviously there is a trial and error period to figure out what products, interact with your body in what way and what the outcome is of that experience. And I encourage you to, go down that journey. It's been a great journey for me.
And there's people, when you walk into Happy Valley in Blackburn Circle at the, in the sort of sales room, if you will, there's people there fully educated on everything. They'll walk you through it. They'll talk you through, how this one works, where it came from, how it, stir sticks versus, gummies as sleep aids versus, some smokable marijuana. What makes it. There's a whole buying experience up there.
Absolutely. And the staff's, passionate and well educated on the products, and they're going to share their experiences with it, with the customers coming in. And the customers, for the most part, they know what they want in advance if they've been coming to us, more than once. And then there's others that still to this day, we have somebody who has never, ever had cannabis before, or hasn't had it in 20, 30 years, and they're coming in and for one reason or another. And that education component, starts with, okay, let's figure out what you're trying to achieve, and the number one thing that we hear time and time again is, I want to sleep. I want to feel less pain. I want to be relaxed, and that's the overall majority of what we hear. And the overall majority of cannabis products can lead you into one of those three lanes without any problems.
Do you find that a lot of people are converting from alcohol to cannabis? Is that like the majority of the rhetoric?
I know that the alcohol industry is very concerned about our industry taking away their business. I can speak to our staff at Happy Valley. I think the overwhelming majority of our 160 employees, don't consume alcohol at all. I mean, when we have a staff party, we have to provide a lot of cannabis products. There's hardly any alcohol there. And what alcohol we do provide, it's not even consumed. So I definitely think there's a shift taking place, say from 40 years of age or younger right now in our country. I think that they are consuming less alcohol than generations before. I've seen some metrics on that level, but I can see it firsthand in our own organization that we're a cannabis first consumption company.
So you guys have a lot of exciting things going on too, like future things going on, and I want to sort of launch some of them into the public sphere today, if we can.
Sure.
Talk about genetics. Talk about what's going on the breeding seed side.
So we launched Happy Valley Genetics earlier this year in 2024. It actually began the breeding side of things in 2023. And it's just been a direct result of me observing all of the seeds that we have popped since inception, and then the performance of those genetics. And there was a clear leader of all the breeders' genetics that we had worked with since inception, and it was Ethos Genetics from Colorado, and the breeder and the founder and of that company is a gentleman by the name of Colin Gordon. And 15 years, he's been breeding and working certain genetic lines, and we had great success with his genetics.
And this is an advantage of being vertically integrated, where you're growing your own flower every day. You're extracting product from that plant every day. You guys could see what genetics were kind of already outperforming in your own business.
Correct. And it's what Colin had been doing through natural selection breeding techniques, which is basically he was growing the plants out and choosing the ones that he had that had the features that he liked the best. But he intentionally was breeding for commercial production. What do we mean by that? Well, all the plants were going to look similar. They were going to have a leaf to calyx ratio that would make it easy for trimming. He was also breeding towards THC, so the THC levels would come up. He was also breeding for terpene levels to go up, certain terpenes. And through his success of selecting the right plants to breed with, he had created multiple varieties that, for a commercial producer like us at Happy Valley, if I wanted to go run out an entire table of seeds, if you don't have a good breeder and with good high quality seeds, you'd grow that table out, you might lose half the plants. They might herm out. That's when they start showing male traits. Or they just wouldn't have THC that was saleable. Like, you could grow out 80 plants on the table, you might lose 20 of them to not being actual female plants. You might lose 20 of them to the fact that they didn't have any THC, it wasn't saleable. But not with Colin's gear. When we ran out his genetics, everything was able to make us money, while we would go out and select a single plant to then put into commercial production. So when we approached him and said, "Hey, Colin, we'd like to get into genetics and breeding. We'd like to dovetail off of your work," and we were able to make a deal. We got ourselves an exclusive licensing IP arrangement with him, and he's we've been brought to market now. Not only some of his genetics, some of the genetics we've created together, and the goal is to create the next generation of cannabis for global distribution. And one of the things that we're working on passionately is we were working with medicinal genomics down in Beverly, and medicinal genomics has been genomically mapping our plants. Okay, and we have a project we've been working on where we are trying to stabilize the genetic super lemon haze. We ended up having super lemon haze be one of the most successful genetics we've done here in Massachusetts, and it was out of dumb luck that we ended up with this super lemon haze. We popped a bunch of lilac diesel seeds from Colin Gordon, and a grandparent in lilac diesel's lineage was super lemon haze. And when we caught a unicorn. We ran out 100 and some plants of lilac diesel, and all these plants on the table, which we reduced to 80. We had one plant that looked different, and it happened to be a perfect version of super lemon haze. However, I don't know, you've probably heard of sativa and indica and hybrids. So a sativa plant is sought after in every marketplace, but they're hard to bring to market because, for the most part, they take more than 10 weeks to grow, and they take 12 or 14 weeks. And then they don't have a lot of weight to them. And so it's very problematic for us in commercial production to grow sativas, because it gets us out of our traditional cycle. We got very lucky. We ended up getting basically a sativa that grows in 9 weeks. Okay, and on top of it, it's a really good representation of super lemon haze. And so we've been working with medicinal genomics, and we're trying, and we've mapped our super lemon haze genomically, and we've gotten all of Colin's original super lemon hazes and other versions of it that he had been working with, and we took all these varieties, 20 some different versions of super lemon haze and medicinal genomics. They've mapped them all, and through marker assisted breeding, we're trying to stabilize. And when I say stabilize it, where we can just grow all of the super lemon haze that we ever want to grow from seed, and every single plant would look the same. That's what is going on in traditional agriculture. You grow from seed, and all those tomato plants or all those soybeans, everything looks the same. that's called creating homogeneous seed. Ultimately, that's our goal at Happy Valley Genetic, is to create an entire stable of varieties that ourselves and growers all over the planet, they don't have to grow from other plants. Everything that we do now, we have a mother plant, we take cuttings, we create clones, and that's how we get product consistency and quality that's all the same, because it's all coming from one mother plant. That way the clones are all the same. That's very expensive. It's 30% of our overhead is that production.
Yep.
And if we could get rid of a significant portion of that overhead by just growing from seed, we win. And on top of it, seeds are easier. They have more vigor. They're resistance to pathogens. They have a lot of positive attributes to them that over time you will eventually run into issues from cloning. It's impossible to keep a mother plant and clone from her for a decade.
Yep.
It's hard to do it for 2 years.
And you'll be well positioned then to be able to go. When you can break down the barriers of the state being stuck in Massachusetts, you'll be able to go sell these seeds globally, potentially.
Well, and that's the other way. It's a lot easier to grow your brand, when it's in seed form than it is to try and duplicate our facility here in Gloucester all over the world.
Right.
So if we could just get the brand out through the genetics, and just continually to focus on that. That's the future of where we're heading with Happy Valley Genetics, and we're just getting started, and we have seed packs that are in the stores today, and I grew marijuana for the very first time in my backyard this summer, and it was a version of our Happy Valley Genetics called autoflowers. So there's two types of seeds that we sell. We sell photoperiod seeds, which is a traditional life cycle of a plant. And then we have these autoflower seeds that just flower whenever they're done. Okay, so you don't have to be, let's just say it's like growing for dummies. The autoflowers are a lot easier for someone like me who is not a horticulture specialist. All I had to do was water it. And then it flowered when it was done, and then I got to harvest it. So we have some really great genetics available in the stores today, and then we have a website for that as well. And and seeds are able to cross state lines. They are able to cross state lines because they don't have any THC. Oh. So we are able to sell seeds across state lines. So that's nice. It is one of the positives of the genetics business is that the seeds don't contain THC.
If somebody wanted to grow these seeds in their own backyard, how much can they grow today?
I can't remember the regulations here in Mass. I think you're allowed 16 plants.
16 plants in your backyard?
I think it's 16. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
I should know that.
Up.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So I didn't even know if somebody could come buy seeds from you, grow it in their backyard.
Yeah, that's legal. Home growing's allowed here in the market. I don't remember exactly how many, but I think it's 16, 12 to 16, something like that.
So you guys got some other stuff going on. You've got Muse. Tell us about Muse real quick.
Muse is a new brand that we have created, and everything that we do under Happy Valley is something that every single part of that product was created and came from our own internal supply chain. We extracted all the oils from those plants. We extracted all the terpenes from in-house. But Muse is a new brand that we're manufacturing here in Gloucester, and the only difference is that not every single component in that particular product was actually done from us. So we just launched at Muse, and our first product under the Muse brand is flavored ground flour. So what we have is a technology called terp pods, and we grind the flour up. We put this terp pod in with the product, and it changes the flavor of that flour. And so we have an indica, a hybrid, and a sativa, and then we have flavors like lemonade and sweet watermelon and blueberry, and that's exactly what you're tasting when you smoke it.
Interesting.
And as a purist and someone who is a daily flower smoker, and really appreciates that cannabis flavor, I was skeptical whether or not I would actually really enjoy this Muse product, and I have to tell you, it is wholly unique, and it's a value product. It's 7 grams, and it's going to retail around $40, between $35 and $40 across the state and in our stores. but every now and then we're going to run an aggressive sale on it, and it could get down to 7 grams of this product for as low as $25, $30 out the door with the state's 20% tax. By the way, that's going to start taking place tomorrow at 420. We'll be having our first Muse sale along those lines. I will be buying 8 of those. If
Merry
I could.
Christmas to you.
Yeah, but it's a really unique. I'm very interested to see how. And the success that we're going to have with this flavored ground flower, I think it's going to be wildly successful, and because it's unique, and it's and like I said,
that's the thing. In any
good.
industry, you need a differentiator, and it sounds like you guys have created a ton of differentiators. That's the real staying power of any business: is can you differentiate yourself enough that you stand alone at some level, and that's what you're doing.
Well, the other thing is you have to continually deliver quality. Quality experience in the store, quality experience, with our, our third-party retailers that we deliver to. We got to show up on time with our transport team, have our case counts be correct, right? And then, but for the consumer, they got to, the cannabis consumer is a very, very smart consumer. They know what they want, and, we're growing millions of grams a year. It's hard to deliver every single gram perfectly. But that's the goal at Happy Valley. The team, the men and women at Happy Valley are so dedicated and passionate, and they've bought into, we don't ever want to put anything that we're not proud of into the marketplace. And that's the mantra of everybody, up here in Blackburn Industrial Park, who work for Happy Valley. And the vision of that has been from inception was to just make great cannabis products.
Everything else will fall in place.
Just make great cannabis products, and then you provide good education and good knowledge of what we know about those products. When the questions are asked of us by the customers and the patients, and that's just who we have been since inception. And the overwhelming majority of our organization has completely bought into that, and that's why we have attracted so much talent. And we do have industry-leading talent at Happy Valley, working every day here in Gloucester, and I'm proud of that, and I think the team's proud of that. And we for many years we were the only store here in town, and now there's other stores here, and our business is still solid, and we still have great business here, and we still have loyal customers, and it's a difficult business, the cannabis industry, and I'm grateful for the staff because we're only as good as our team. There's so many different moving parts. It's the people that are making the products. And if they're not going to look away from the plants, which they don't, I would say every single month of the year, somebody's coming into the building at 3 or 4 in the morning to make sure that we don't lose plants. Okay, some alarm went off, and we have dedicated. They're coming in. 6 or 7 people are on that alarm. It's amazing, And it's been a beautiful thing to be a part of and to be part of the journey with all these individuals.
And you might not have been totally rewarded yet by like the federal government or the state government, but there's other rewards that you guys are seeing in your success. And sort of one of the last big sort of announcements you guys have going on is you could potentially be moving to Florida.
We will be heading to Florida. No, we were so fortunate that we in April of 2023, Florida opened up licensing for additional medical marijuana licenses. 22 more licenses were going to be awarded through an application process, and we put together a partnership and pursued that licensing. And we were one out of 73 applications. We were one of the top 22 scores. We just found out the Wednesday before Thanksgiving that we were one of those top 22 scores, and so we're going to be in that marketplace. There will be a delay as appeals begin about the scoring, but at some point in 2026, we will be operational in Florida, and it's going to be an unbelievably exciting time for our company to get into that market. Eventually, we believe Florida will be the largest market in our country. Their population growth is expected to be 50 million people by 2050. They don't have adult use right now. They did vote on it this past election. It did not pass. But it will come at some point.
It's a matter of time.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And we're going to have an ability to get down there and get our infrastructure in place before that day arrives. And obviously, there's so many of our customers vacation there anyways. or move there, migrate there, and that'll continue to take place as we go into the future years. And we already have a lot of people that travel from Florida to New England in the summertime, that already have been familiarized with our brand through like I was talking about, the brand exposure from the music festivals and the nightclubs, and just coming into being here in Gloucester. There's so many people that the tourism in the summer has been great for building our brand exposure. Same thing in East Boston, being right next to the airport. So it's an exciting time for us, and it was a real shot in the arm for us before Thanksgiving to get that announcement. What it also does is it gives upward mobility for the team. There's certain individuals who now have the opportunity to take those leadership positions down in Florida. When they vacate here, we're going to want to build from within. So there's just a lot of opportunity coming from that, not only just for us, but for our team as well.
Michael, how can this community continue to support you? Like, is there anything that you need from this community for the community to give back to you and the team? Do you need to hire more people? Are you short-staffed? Do you need people to vote on things? Like, what can they do? Or just keep coming in and buying product?
Well, listen, the loyalty that they have shown us has been amazing. As I said, there's 2 additional stores on the island now, and our business is still solid. We still have people coming in and showing that loyalty and providing the feedback of what we can do to get better. And we obviously are continually hiring. And so, if you are interested in the cannabis industry and you see a job posting, please apply. We'll train you. But no, the community's been great. They supported us, since inception. They continue to support us. And we're a Gloucester company.
I think we're lucky to have you guys too. I think that's like what people don't understand is that this is going to be a gigantic industry. If you look at Anheuser-Busch went through this cycle back in whatever time. We've got a level-headed person with an awesome business plan operating a future huge industry right here in our backyard and doing it with a completely level head. Like, you're doing a great job. And we're lucky to have you. Honest to God.
We appreciate those kind words.
It's freaking awesome.
Well, listen, it's also, the passion of the staff from the community into the products we're making, is really special to see. They're all consumers of our products, as well. All the product makers consume the products they're making. There's a lot of thought and strategy and that goes into everything that we put into the marketplace. Is it all appreciated and by everyone? No, that's impossible. But listen, we don't want to ever put our name on something that we're not proud of, and that's just the whole team at Happy Valley has continually done that. And so no, we're grateful to be in this community, and we're not going anywhere. And the breeding side of things is super exciting, and I encourage anyone in the community come try Happy Valley Genetics. That and the products that we're putting out, we have a genetic by another level right now. It's on another level. It's phenomenal, and we're hoping that we can turn that in and get traction in multiple other states. We're going to be working on that in 2025 to get that genetic with some name recognition outside of Mass. But it needs. I highly encourage anyone who loves a great smoke to come try another level. And then, like I said, we are working on that Super Lemon Haze project. Can we be the first genetics company on Earth to stabilize a genetic with homogeneous seed? Where you can replicate that product from that genetic from seed. That's what we're trying to accomplish. That'll be the international news. If we accomplish that, it'll be international news. I don't know if we will. But we're working on it, and we have some guys a lot smarter than you and I down in medicinal genomics helping us with it. It's all Klingon to me. I sit in the meetings. I have no idea. I just say, hey, listen, I just don't want it to have mold. Okay,
right.
I want it to have pathogen resistance. And can you give me really high THC and really great buds without leaves? But no, and they just look at me. But there is that as well. We're pioneering. Nobody has tried to do really what we're doing with Happy Valley Genetics. Nobody in the Commonwealth is doing it. And that's the type, and we do, please, we do need you to come in and buy the product to support us on that front. But that's what we're doing here. And
all of this from a guy who was, just working on a real estate project down in the Bahamas.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that wild? Like, I appreciate you coming in here and telling this story, because how else would we get this story out? I mean, you just went through it, right? Like, you just went through it and you rolled with the punches and you continued on. But I think when you reflect on it, when you look at it and you tell that story, people are going to hear the story. They're going to be like, holy shit, this is wild.
It's wild. And then when I look at the team and, the 160 people, we're kind of a dichotomy of the whole country. I mean, we're so many different backgrounds. I mean, because of the vision at Happy Valley, we've attracted talent from across the industry that was outside of the state, brought them to New England. They've absorbed this culture. New England's a different culture. Mass is a different culture. Gloucester is its wholly unique own culture.
Yep.
And the people are tough, I mean, in terms of just the spirit of them, it's this, it's not a laissez-faire type part of our country, and it's, my wife and our kids are really happy here in the North Shore, and it's just been a great journey. And I see all these different people from all these different walks of life come together, which is our country struggling at that at times, right? And here I get to watch it at Happy Valley, where we do come together, and we have the shared vision, and all these cooks in the kitchen. And we're making great products, and we're having fun while we're doing it. Obviously we're persevering through tough times in the industry right now here in Mass and nationally as well. I mean, the overwhelming majority of our industry is struggling right now. But hopefully we get some relief next year with the rescheduling of cannabis, and we get that tax relief and allow us to have some breathing room on our margins, and allow us to run a normal business. That's really what we all want in the industry. Can you just let us have a normal business? We're not causing problems.
Right.
We're just not. We're not causing problems in any market we've been in. Cannabis is, a much better alternative, to create an experience, than alcohol in terms of just the impact to the body. And I think that's gotten not as much press as it deserves, and you see hit pieces all the time coming from the Washington Post about cannabis is linked to this or that. And it's like, what about alcohol?
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's been awesome to have you, have an opportunity to talk about this company that I've been a part of birthing. And, I tell the team all the time, we haven't even gotten out of the locker room.
Right.
I mean, we just haven't. I mean, I can't
so
even
early.
see the end of the vision and where we're going to go. We just haven't even gotten out of the locker room, and there's so much left to accomplish and do, and to see where this thing will end up. And I'm long in the industry at this point. I can't see me doing anything else right now at any other point in the future of my life, other than to continue to be involved in Happy Valley and growing it. And obviously, I have 130 some investors that one day, I want to be able to get them whole,
Yep.
and I appreciate the investment that they've made in our company, and knowing that they're, for all intents and purposes, they're stuck right now, and there's no way for us to really provide that liquidity with the federal, limitations that just, that we deal with every day. But hopefully, in the near future, that'll change for us as well, because, they're not getting any younger, our investor base, and they've been in this deal at this point for 8 years, and counting. And I mean, I'm almost a decade into this industry, and I just said I'm not even out of the locker room yet.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's exciting. I have to again say I appreciate you coming on here and telling this story. It's such a keystone business to the industry, which is gigantic, and it just happens to be in our backyard. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the jobs you bring to the area, and community, go support these guys.
Well, hey, appreciate that plug. It's been an honor that you even wanted to have an opportunity to speak to me. So I appreciate that as well, and thank you for the kind words today. And if you want to hear an update in the future, I'd love to come back.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back.
Awesome, appreciate that.
Thank you, Michael, for coming.
Thank you.